Mute me there. And then go back to the presentation. You're the best. Thank you. Yes, I was muted. I'm going to start over. Thank you so much. Sorry about that. But thank you guys for coming to our Developer Health and Habits event with 4Geeks Academy and the Shrimp Society. So my name's Alyssa. I'm the campus manager for 4Geeks Academy, and I'm going to be doing a brief introductory PowerPoint and then turn it over to our speakers today. So just a little bit about who we are. 4Geeks Academy, we are a boot camp located in Brickell in Miami. We have 10 locations in 7 countries with campuses in North, South, and Central America. We have over 2,000 graduates total. 85% of our graduates find a job within the first 90 days after graduation. We have partnerships already established with major industry players, and we are rated one of the top coding boot camps in the world. A little bit more about us and our mission. Our mission is to reduce the unemployment rate, provide accessibility, and increase the amount of digital talent available. Over 2,000 graduates, how we achieve these results is through 2 main platforms called GeekPal and GeekForce, which I'm going to explain to you guys next. But some more statistics about us is that our students see an average of 22% salary increase upon completing the program, and about 85–86% of those graduates are getting placed in their first job within 90 days after graduating from our cohort. So those 2 platforms, GeekPal and GeekForce, are very important to 4Geeks and who we are. So GeekPal gives our graduates unlimited access to our community for the rest of their lives, basically. So when they graduate, they never get taken out of our Slack channel. They never lose access to our events, to our mentors. They can still access one-on-one mentoring or global/group mentoring. And it's really just about creating a community of developers and keeping that community live forever. The second platform is called GeekForce, which is our career support track. This is headed by Adele Zapata, who is our career support coordinator. And Adele's job is to help our students get jobs. So that's what she does all day. She has meetings with our students, helps them with their resume, with their LinkedIn, with their interview preparation, and just supports them during that job search to find their first job after the boot camp. So GeekForce and our career support is also unlimited and forever to help our graduates land their first job in tech. And then who is the Shrimp Society? The Shrimp Society is an innovation ecosystem for ambitious builders. So basically they create these NFTs that you see here, these shrimp-looking people. And then by purchasing one of those NFTs, you get access to their community. So you can collaborate with members, attend private events, and access opportunities within their community. And then, so what is so exciting about 4Geeks and the Shrimp Society together is that we're teaming up to provide free shrimp NFTs to everyone who enrolls in and graduates from 4Geeks in the first 6 months of 2022. So if you're attending this event and your cohort started after January 1st, when you graduate, you are going to get a shrimp NFT and you're going to have access to those community and those events. So that's what we're super excited about. And we want everyone to know. So tell all your friends, there's still time left to enroll. If they enroll within the first 6 months of 2022, and when they graduate, they're going to get a shrimp. And then to celebrate, we're doing this event tonight. So we have 2 speakers. We have Michelle, who is a program director at G2I and a co-organizer at the React Miami conference. And then we have Angel, who is the CEO and software developer at CoBuild Lab. And that is it for my presentation. So I am going to turn it over to our speakers. Give me just one moment.
Awesome. Well, hi everybody. I'm Chris from the Shrimp Society. We want this to be collaborative. We have like an awesome tight-knit group in here. I was chatting with some people beforehand, and so we want to make sure that you have the opportunity to ask questions. You're obviously here for a reason, so learning more. We have 2 amazing panelists here who are really in the trenches of everything going on in the Miami tech ecosystem here. 2 amazing resources to come out here and do that. So we're going to kind of do this Q&A a little bit. We're going to start. I have some questions. I want to hear about what you guys are working on and things like that. But also, I was thinking about a couple of concepts. One, kind of maybe we can progress through this, but developer mindset is something that we were just talking about, of kind of whether you're looking to get into the space, you're in the space, kind of what is your mental mindset. Then your physical. You look like both of you are in great shape from what I see, so I'm sure that's an important part of everything. Also habits, right? I want to get into the 4-hour work week. I think we're going to get into that. 4-day, yeah, 4-day. That's the book. My bad. 4-day work week, and then kind of get into some Q&A things. But I mean, maybe to kick off, if you want to let everybody know a little bit more of what you're doing, you have the huge conference coming up, super exciting. But yeah, if you want to tell them a little bit more.
Sure. Thanks so much, Chris. Thank you for having me. So my name is Michelle Bakels. I'm a program director at a company called G2I. It stands for Good to the Internet. And we're a developer marketplace. We vet React Native Node developers, and then we match them to the companies of our clients. And we are the first, and as far as we know, the only marketplace that prioritizes developer health, which is where I come in. So anything to support the mental, physical, and emotional health for software developers. And my work is with our developer collective, but it also reaches out to the global developer community as well. And so I'm really thankful to be able to have this conversation. Outside of that, member of Shrimp Society for last probably over 6 months now, and chair of Code Palm Beach, which is an organization that provides free coding lessons to kids in South Florida, active member of Developer DAO, and just all around big fan of the South Florida tech ecosystem.
Good. Name is Angel. I'm many things actually. I'm a founder, an entrepreneur, and I do a lot of stuff on my company. But usually when I describe myself, I usually describe as a software developer. That's what I really like to do and love to do, and still do 6 days a week, even a couple of hours a day. So yeah, CEO and one of the founders of COVID Lab. We're a software company here in South Florida. Small company growing for the past 3 to 4 years. And very good friends of 4Geeks Academy. I actually worked here for a few months, 2 years ago. I don't know if you know about that. I work in a couple of bootcamps with developers and teaching how to code. And I'm a software engineer, doing software for I think 12 to 15 years, something like that. I don't like to do the math, just figure it out. And I'm very excited to be here and to share a little bit of experience into this world of software development.
So I think based on those introductions, you're both super ambitious people, a lot on your plate between running organizations, managing people, projects, partners, all of that. Kind of kicking off with the mindset perspective. How do you conceptually keep everything together, and then how do you physically keep everything together in terms of making sure things don't fall through the cracks, making sure that you're giving time for the other aspects of your health, whether that's mental health or physical health? How do you even start to kind of compartmentalize or think about all of this?
Yeah, so I think that there's like a combination of a few things. Being a software developer myself for the last 6 or 7 years, there is a tendency to say like, oh yeah, I can do that. I can get that done. Oh, don't worry about it. I could do it in 2 hours, like not a big deal. And then all of a sudden you're like, oh, that filter array method doesn't work the same way I remember it working before. Okay. So, in any case, I think one of the things that's benefited me is like kind of like underestimating what I can do in a certain amount of time, and then exceeding my expectations if possible. And so you kind of have, I kind of have daily, like my goals for the day, like my schedule. These are the things that I'm going to execute at this time. And then if I get them done early, then like these are the things that I can fill in with the rest of that time. And that way I can keep on top of what I'm doing and make sure that I get everything done and I don't like drown under the work. And then I think also setting boundaries is really important. So, you know, there's going to be, especially when you're a developer, there's going to be a lot of people that ask you for a lot of things, always want help or, you know, whatever. And, you know, you may want to help them, but at some point you have to say no. You have to know like who you want to invest your time in. Like, have a phrase at G2I where it's like, if it's not a hell yes, it's a no, so that you focus on the things that really drive your mission. So there are people that I will say yes to, like Chris, like, you know, I'll do shrimp things, you know, I'll do Code Palm Beach, G2I, React Miami Conf, but, you know, things outside of this, you know, it's like, okay, let me think about it, you know, or maybe let's do it in 3 months.
On that note, do you have people that will
All the time, right?
like earlier in your career, maybe where you're like, sure, and then
Yeah, I would say yes to things all the time and like offer to do them for free, because at some point you're kind of like, yeah, okay, that's not that hard. But those things like add up, like they really add up. And rest is not free time. Rest is an active part of your schedule. So just because you don't have something booked for work does not mean that that time is available.
Well, you know, back to, you know, talking about the mindset. I mean, to be 100% honest with you, maybe I'm the worst person to ask about this. I'm a workaholic, and I have a lot of problems in my back, stress from working too much. I guess I have a lot of experience, at least in that space, right? I do a lot of things, right? I could probably process like 250 emails a week, which from those 200 are pull requests. I need to do code review. I run the sales department of the company, the marketing department, project department. I code for a couple of projects. I do realize that I work a lot, but I think that I can do a lot because I've achieved a lot of experience in terms of productivity, right? And how to do time management, right? I'm a fanatic of to-do lists, right? So I have like at least like 3 or 4 to-do lists, and also like meta to-do lists. Like my phone is also like a to-do list. And I've done like a bunch of changes on my daily routine that it helps me do a lot of things, right? But I've learned that on a bad path, right? I have a surgery on my back due to, well, it probably has something to do with lift weighting too. But you know, being a software developer and spend like the majority of your time sitting or in bed, because sometimes we code in bed, is really bad for your back, right? And I learned that the bad way, right? I learned that by, you know, having a couple of episodes that are really bad that you barely can walk or get up with your chair, no? Right? So I do believe that if someone asks me, you know, what are the things that you shouldn't be doing, you know, just look, I'm experienced, right? Don't work too much. Don't spend like 10 hours sitting in a chair without stretching or without doing exercise. But I really love what I do in terms of that helps a lot, right? I could be in a chair for 20 hours straight without realizing that I haven't drank any glass of water during the day, just because I enjoy doing coding and doing software development, and I really enjoy like all the parts of my day, right? So I guess it's difficult for me to say like what's the mindset that you have to have, because I really like it. Right? It's easy for someone who likes soccer to play soccer all day, right? So I will add to that like advices in that sense. I don't know, maybe be super organized, right? As you were saying, have your times pre set up, like this is your break, your family time, this is your exercise time. And that definitely helps a lot. Like I think one of the first things that I learned in order to be like hyper productive was managing time, being able to use my calendar a lot and try to separate, things into time slots and stuff like that.
So I think both of you guys mentioned both of you mentioned, and I want to get into more of the physical health stuff in a minute here, but both of you mentioned a to-do list and kind of the structure. I'd be curious to know, like, what actually you're doing that on. Is it a piece of paper? Is it a Notion document? Is it configured to different workflows? But kind of like tactically, how does that work?
So this is like kind of like a large structure that kind of trickles down. So something that my boss Gabe taught me how to kind of build out is what I think he kind of came up with. This is called an essentialism plan. So every company has, like their 3-year goals, 5-year, in the next year, we're going to do this. And then you have your Q1, Q2, Q3, Q4, right? And then when you have your quarterly goals, you kind of up and you have an essentialism plan. So like every 2 weeks, like the same way devs have like sprints, you have your 2 weeks of work that's going to get you to your goals by the end of the quarter. And so when you every 2 weeks you sit down and you look at, okay, what's the most essential things that you have to do to reach your goals by the end of the quarter, then that's how you know what to prioritize. So when you have your priority list in front of you, every day you create a quote daily action plan. And Gabe does this in a Notion doc. I do this on a dry erase board. But it's basically where, before I start the day, I look at what is in my essentialism plan. I look at what I need to do, and I just map out the hours of the day. 9 to 10, I'm answering emails. 10 to 11, I'm doing this. So it's like, from like 2 to 3, if I'm writing, if I'm writing a blog article or something like that, and an email comes in, I'm not going to stop and answer that email, because context switching takes on average about 20 minutes each way. So if you're changing what you're doing constantly just because you get a Slack message and an email or whatever, you're losing hours of your day, essentially, which is why, it kind of comes back to probably where we're going at some point with the 4-day work week. It's like people do not work 5 days a week. They do not work 40 hours a week. It's just not happening. So it's about being like very intentional, being very structured, and like disciplining yourself and creating habits and like being consistent with your habits.
All right. So tactically speaking, I have tons of hacks. As I was saying, I do a lot of things. Among those things, I code between the day with all the noise. I'm not like super efficient in that way, but I'm able to do a lot of things. As I was saying, I mean, a normal day I could process 40 pull requests and have like 2 meetings one-on-one, and still have a meeting for 2 hours with my sales department in order to organize sales goals. I don't particularly have any goals myself. I'm pretty much on demand, right? I have 5 email inbox. I use the email inbox as to-do list. So every email that you send my way is something that I have to attend. And I don't necessarily, I guess I do priorities because I don't do first in, first out. I just scan through what needs to be done immediately and what I can put out to some other time of the day. I do have a couple of notebooks next to my desk that I use for kind of like my daily thing, or the things that I need to be reminded to do during the day. And also what I was saying about my phone is a little bit true. I only keep in my home, in my first screen, like all of the icons or apps that have a red dot in it with a notification, because I know that that's something that I need to do. And that's, I just start executing. I don't necessarily book a specific time of the days for certain activities. I do have 6 daily meetings that I have to attend every day, right? That are just Scrum meetings with developers. But after that, I'm just, doing whatever has to be done. I also am responsible for, unstocking developers on the company. That's pretty much what I was doing here at 4Geeks, right? On stalking people when you hit like a wall. And I have to jump into 5-10 minutes meeting, across the day, whatever someone needed and whatever have a time available on my calendar. I do, as I was saying, I have a lot of hacks. I keep a lot of bookmarks. I keep conversations. I force developers to have conversations in shared channels, because for me, as I was saying, like I try to minimize the time that I do context switching. So if someone texts me on a private chat, I don't know what it's about, right? But if someone texts me on a shared channel, I know that it's related to that specific project, and I can immediately, get it to it instead of thinking about what's going on. For the pull requests, in order to do a lot, I don't go line by line. That's obviously not realistic for me, at least not in terms of time. But for example, for the company, we have like a strict set of guidelines that people do and behave in such way, right? Or code in such way. So I could like quickly scan, see something is like a red flag, and I just point out the red flag. Or I just take a little bit more time to realize what's the problem and just it that way. I keep the meetings short. That's also super important for me. Try to make everybody aware that, we have short amount of time to have meetings. So I try to go straight to the point, right? I'm actually a little bit criticized because I don't breathe. So I don't go into meetings saying like, hey, how you doing? How's your day? Good morning. I just try to be, just right on point. And I get it, right? If you're working in an organization and, your member, you want to feel that someone is at least asking, how's your day or something like that. Or if you're starting a meeting and you're waiting for someone, maybe there's space for some chat. I don't do that. If we go into a meeting and someone hasn't arrived, I just wait like 5 minutes and I start like doing something else. But again, I consider myself like super productive, but it's not healthy. I don't think that this is a situation that I will suggest someone to be put in. I'm also have like an entrepreneur mindset. So doing a lot of stuff is part of being able to, having a startup or starting a venture that is not producing or needs to have a lot of things to figure out, right? So I think I'm between those two roles, right? Being a software developer, being hyper productive, and then being an entrepreneur, that it needs to be hyper productive, just because otherwise you probably will fail or it will be super hard.
I love what you're. Is it back? Okay, sorry. But yeah, so you've been on the 4-day work week train for a while. I saw you post on Twitter about it and everything like that, and that's kind of how a lot of this came together. So I want to hear the full pitch. Tell me on it.
I don't know if we have the time. There's really a lot to it. But one thing for sure that I can tell you that I really like to start with, since I've heard that there's a company called WildBit. They've been doing the 4-day work week. They're a software company. They've been doing the 4-day work week for years now. And their CEO, she made this like great comment one time that the 40-hour work week is not a law of nature. Like there's nothing that says that this is the perfect amount of time. This is how human beings like get the most done. So there's, like kind of adding on to this, like everything that we know has been like invented and created. And so that means that we can create something else. So kind of getting less into the kind of like a affirmation card level of like the conversation. I firmly believe that every company can adopt in some way a 4-day work week. In fact, we kind of like more refer to it as a 32-hour work week, because maybe you do have to work 5 days, but you don't have to work 40 hours. So, one of the things that, I'm hearing in this conversation, one of the things that we recommend is to cut these meetings. Like these meetings that are 5, 10 minutes, 15 minutes, we use, we prioritize async communications first. So these conversations that are happening that are 5 or 10 minutes, okay, I'm going to open up Loom. I'm going to record a video of myself saying these things. I'm going to send it to my coworker. And then in an hour or two, when they have time to look at it, they're going to record a Loom, or they're going to write like 2 sentences and answer my question or something. Like, we don't need to be blocking our calendar, context switching. Like, I have, that time in my day, like answer emails, like look at messages, so if you're staying on top of your work, of course there are things that happen last minute, but there aren't fires every single day that need to be put out. Like if there are fires all the time, that's like an indication of like organizational issues, like adding too much to your sprints, like putting too much work on your plate, not focusing on what you really need to be focused on. Like, and when you discipline yourself, you actually become more productive. You become more engaged with your mission, and you find yourself like achieving your goals a lot faster because you have so much of these less distractions around you. So, the 4-day work week, we especially advocate for in tech, because there's like a few reasons. Number one, you find that everybody's looking for software developers. When you offer something like this, work-life balance, 4-day work week, you have more people that answer your job postings. So you're more likely to be interviewing candidates. You have a higher quality of candidate that answers your job postings, because people are looking for that work-life balance, because they don't, they want to spend time with their friends. They want to spend time with their families. Then you have higher rates of retention. All of this is backed by data, by the way. Like you can look up any of this. Like you have higher rates of retention for this talent, which, by the way, turnover costs around 100 to 150% of an employee's salary. So think about every time you lose somebody, you're paying like their whole annual salary, or like 1.5 times their annual salary just to replace them. And then you have higher levels of productivity. So like, most companies that experiment with the 4-day work week and track their changes in productivity have shown like, either no loss in productivity, usually around 20 to 30% increase in productivity, even with like less dev time or work time. At Microsoft Japan's, like the Japan office, they implemented the 4-day work week as a work-life balance benefit for their employees, and they found a 40% increase. When you think about a company like Microsoft, it's hard to imagine that they're wasting time, right? It's hard to imagine that they're not already firing on all cylinders. And they cut 20% of their developers' time out of the work week and found a 40% increase. That is wild. Like, so you have to like, going to a 4-day work week is not just cutting a day out of the work week. It's like getting really focused and getting really serious about what you need to do and how you're going to communicate and how you're going to spend the time in your day.
So what is the steps if you're like for friends where we try to be async, it's like awful async. Like, you get the text messages and Slack messages and like all full or all around the place. So like, what can a company do to start implementing that? Like you said, don't just cut Friday, which is what everyone probably just thinks Friday's off.
Yeah, that's a really good question, because like a lot of companies too are like, well, our company serves other companies that work on Fridays. Like if they need support, we have to be there for them. So there's a lot of ways that we can do this. In fact, we're putting out a guide. I think we actually have it on our website now. If you go to G2I's website, we have a page for the 4-day work week that gives you ways to experiment with it. So at G2I, we didn't start off by cutting out a day. And in fact, that's not even how it works with us right now. We started off for a year splitting the team into a red team and a blue team. And each team took every other Friday off. So you got every other Friday off. So 2 Fridays off in a month is a pretty great improvement off of like none. Found no productivity loss. And then we switched in January to the whole company on a 4-day work week every week. But each team, like customer success, like developer success, the engineering team, every team got to decide themselves how they wanted to implement that. And that's why we kind of call it more a 32-hour work week. So I take Fridays off most of the time. But the sales team, they'll do, a half day. Sales is slow on Friday evening and Monday morning. So they'll do a half day on each side of that week. Developer success, since our developers are all over the world, they will like rotate. Their team will like rotate on the calendar, like who has like a day off, like which day off they have that week. So I think like being really flexible is super important. And yeah, just like time boxing the experiment. So you don't have to say like, we're going to go into this like every other Friday off. Okay, let's do it. Like that is a little bit daunting. It's a little scary. But time box it. Say like for 1 quarter, we're going to try this. And that's what we did. Like at G2I. Okay, so for Q1, we're going to try this every other Friday off, split the teams, and let's see how it goes. And that way, when there's like issues that arise, you can like kind of like address them without anything being too dire or like consequential, and just be able to pivot and make changes as needed, and then go into Q2, try it again with like what you learned, and then see if you can keep improving to the point that you can go to full 4-day. And there are a lot of companies, like I will say, like for companies that are like, we can't do a 4-day work week, I highly recommend that if you are in tech, you figure it out, because there are a lot of tech companies that are figuring it out right now. And that is like one of their huge value propositions. And we have seen it make up the difference, like in $40,000 to $60,000 in offers for like top talent. Like a senior developer will be willing to take like $60,000 less in a base salary offer if they know that they're going to have work-life balance, if they know that they're going to, not be, hit up to like fix a bug in production while they're on vacation in Italy with their, partner. Like, that is really, really valuable. And we see it mean the most to the incoming talent, the millennials. They value the work-life talent or the work-life balance the most. And you see it with like the super senior principal engineer level. They've been in the game for like 20 years and they're like tired of it. Like they made the money and they're like, they don't care. Like at some point, like it is worth like, it can be worth almost $100,000 to like be left alone on the weekend. So it's worth exploring.
What do you think of that, Anna? Have you heard of this before?
Yeah. I actually used it in the past too, and I tried to implement it a bunch of times. But I guess one of the pending things that I have is to figure it out. We actually have something similar that's coming for this year. The thing is that we, as a small company, we behave a lot like I behave myself, just because I'm all over the place and I'm kind of like the leader of the culture of the company, right? And I had some Fridays off, and I just started looking for another project to do. so it has been a challenge for me to understand the needs of remote developers as well, right? As weird as it sounds, being a remote developer myself, is really, sometimes you get like the blind eye into seeing everybody else's needs, right? But I've been requested, and we are kind of like working on something similar. It's not kind of like a 4-day weeks, but probably we get there. Hopefully we get there. It's just going to start like one Friday and then progressively to 2 Fridays, and okay, we'll see from there. Um, Regarding what you talk about at the beginning, we do have a kind of like a rule or a non-writing rule in our company that is that if you don't need something from me immediately, if it's not an emergency, just create a ticket and assign it to me. And I get an email, right? And then I get to choose, if that needs to be done immediately or later today or maybe tomorrow. So that has helped me a lot because also my Slack, my pending conversation Slack used to be also kind of like my to-do list, like checking on each one conversations where I'm needed, where I'm mentioned, to see if I need to do something immediately, right? But yeah, that's instant messaging. Instant action, it hasn't really paid out. So we kind of like implemented that. So if you need help with something or you need something to be reviewed or something to be approved, just create a ticket and I'll get it eventually, right? At some point. And yeah, I mean, I guess adding a little bit more to that, I do believe that it's important to have a balance, to dedicate enough time to your family, to some other things. I've been pushing myself for the past year and a half to exercise more, right? And I have to push myself because you need to exercise, especially if you work seated. Like, it goes back a little bit to what I was saying at the beginning, that you cannot be seated all day and not work out. At least you have to move the fluids on your body in some way, right? So you need to make time for it. If you focus too much on work, just start the day, come to the night and you're sleeping, you have done nothing but be seated and not interacted with someone else. And I think the COVID changed that a little bit too, right? I think a lot of people get used to digital interaction, right? We as developers, we have been doing remote for, I don't know, like 20 years or something like that, right? But I guess it was a balance because you get interaction with people remotely, and then you compensate that with the rest of the people around the world, right? I guess that's true for developers and also for gamers, right? Gamers have been for, I don't know, maybe more than developers or something like that. So you get a balance. But now that everything is kind of like online, then that balance, it was lost. Now everybody's like always remote. You're always seated. I don't know how people are getting used to getting back to the office, just because for me, I love having my office. I love to have my own stuff and, decorate my office. That's kind of like a way of releasing stress for me, like buying stuff and putting it in, see how it looks like. But I don't know, it's hard for me to leave my house now because it's so comfortable there. I can yell in a meeting and I can scream or stab and do stuff and no one's going to say anything to me. But if I'm in an office, that's a challenge, right? I mean, it's funny, right? One of the things that I do for productivity, right, is a little bit stupid, but is I do it like all the time. I organize my closet in a certain way that I don't have to like think about what to wear, right? I just choose whatever is in this side and that's what I wear, right? You can see it from my look. But I have been having problems with my socks because I do the same thing, but as I work from home, I don't wear socks because it's carpet, right? So now my socks are peeling out. So I have like a bunch of socks there. But anyways, it's like a stupid thing, but I just realized like a couple of days ago, I was talking to my wife and I say like, oh my God, I have like a lot of clean socks. I don't, anyway, it's probably like a stupid thing, but it's kind of like a reflection of, people are getting used to being remote and that's probably not such a good thing. You need to go outside, you need to take the sun. I started like taking vitamin D pills because doctor says that I'm not taking enough sun. So that's kind of like probably out there, for many people. But anyway, I mean, a balance is important. That's kind of like the bottom line there. Realizing that you have to stop working, even if you're enjoying your work, you need to do things like, supporting your family, thinking about someone else's problems for at least a couple of hours a week, or taking care of your kids, and things like that.
That's super interesting what you said about the socks. My like COVID work from home like mindset trick was that I would wear shoes. I would just like work in my bedroom at my desk, but I would, you wake up and you're kind of working in your pajamas or whatever. But I was like, got to get ready, shower, and then I would put on shoes, and my roommates would be like, "Why are you wearing shoes?" I'm like, "Cause I'm at work right now." Cause it was like my mindset shift. But that brings up something super interesting: the work from home balance, getting out of the house. So many people were burnt out over COVID and kind of like being locked up and everything like that, because the only thing kind of to do was work, and you could always get Slack messages. In a way, I think it broke at least the container of work being 9 to 5, right? Because now it's 8 p.m. and you're on your couch, you're cooking, and your boss is like, "Oh, wait, can you send me this?" Right? It really blurred the lines between all of that. And someone on our team, Jackson, he always says, "Code don't write itself," which is really unique to developers, right? Because code don't write itself. The sales guys or whoever can go out to dinner, they can do this, they can take a Zoom meeting they're not prepared for, they can whatever. The marketing person can have a brilliant idea and then it happens, but code don't write itself. So we've kind of talked about getting to that place or the strategies you use, but let's talk about when you're actually there. I'm sure we have developers in the room. Like, how do you get into flow? How do you kind of optimize that brick of time when you're actually writing the code and things like that? Yeah.
I love this question because I can almost guarantee that my answer is going to be really weird. so I'll start off with like a normal answer, which is like block your messages, like block yourself from like pings and emails and things like that, like kind of set that time for yourself. But I talking like mental health, physical health, emotional health, it's very holistic. You can't just like ace one and fail the others. It all kind of works together. And so exactly a year ago today, I ran like a 10-day experiment seeing if I could like practice meditation through coding. So like every like if you ever do guided meditations, like sometimes you'll be like thinking about a theme of like gratitude or kindness or something. So I took that, I created like a project for each of these kind of thoughts or emotions and themes, and I built very small programs that I could build like one a day, and like practiced like just focusing on that intention while I was coding. And I think that helps a lot because like as developers from the onset, like from the day we step into like a 4Geeks or an Iron Hack or a CS program, it's very stressful, and we only see other people very stressed out. And so we normalize very much, like this, it's so hard to be a developer, or like, you want to throw your computer out the window, LOL, but it doesn't really have to be that way. Like, great, it's problem solving. And I'm not going to lie, it can be frustrating, but it is also some level controlling your emotions and controlling your mindset and controlling your breath and your breathing. There's a physical aspect. Like when you have a panic attack, your temperature is rising, your breath is getting heavier, your heart is increasing. These are physical things that are happening. So if you're a developer, you can like learn how to like recognize these things, control them, and start to like bring yourself back so that you can regain focus, and then you can get into flow and be productive and find like these expanses of time when you're just like banging out code. Because like when you get like this, when you get like super frustrated, you get like this like blindness, like you just see red at some point, and that's, you're not productive at all. And I could get into the whole like like sleep and rest and all that stuff, but I'll leave that and just stick to the flow. Like practice kind of controlling your emotions, controlling your mind in the moment, and you will find flow.
Well, I think that coding is the only thing that I cannot multitask. or kind of multitasking certain level, right? I usually do that overnight after 8 p.m. I usually go through the whole huge amount of things during the day. I could be on a meeting doing code reviews, so I can do that. And I could be participating in the meeting and doing like a code review, but I cannot code, and I cannot even code and talk at the same time. Is I don't know. I mean, there are certain things that I cannot do at the same time, and one is coding, right? You could be literally talking to me, and if I'm just looking at the screen, I don't know what you're talking about. So what I do is when I have to do it during the day, because it needs to be done, or because I'm working with a developer that is stuck and we need to look at the code to figure things out, I have to block everything else. I have to go into focus mode, but that's a new thing with the macOS. Super useful, by the way. I don't know why they haven't done that in the past. When I tested the first time, I say like, where was this thing? Like, me was like closing windows and putting the phone in mute and stuff like that. But we have the focus mode now, and I have to be 100% on it. And after my day is over around 4 or 5, I just spend time with my family. I have dinner, and then kind of like 8 p.m. when no one is asking me stuff. At that time, I don't need the focus mode, but I only focus on that, and I can be like really productive and comfortable, either at the desk or in the bed. And Saturdays, just because of the same reasons. Just because it's Saturday, no one is asking me a bunch of questions. No one is sending emails my way. So that's what I do. And yeah, I mean, nowadays, just because of all my responsibilities, I can only do like 2 or 3 hours a day tops. Sometimes I don't do it, or sometimes it's like 1 hour. That's pretty much what I'm thinking.
Awesome. Well, this has been amazing. I feel like I got a lot of stuff to work on from this. I feel energized for this, but want to take some questions or any comments, any challenges anyone's having with anything they're working on in terms of prioritizing things or figuring out a workflow that works for them. I want to turn it over to the crowd. Anybody have any questions here? Is there anything on Zoom as well? Maybe you could hit the chat if you're on Zoom. But anything you want us to kind of give more context on or details, anything like that, just let us know. Buddy, we're gonna be hanging. Yeah, good.
How do you enforce proper boundaries with your clients and boss? That is a fantastic question. So I think making sure that expectations are communicated clearly up front is probably the first step. There's a lot of things that can happen between like a boss and a client. And kind of scope creep is one of the first things that comes to mind. Like you kind of agree to do one thing, and then could you change the color of that button, and then actually when you click it, could it also send an email? And it's like, okay, changing the color of that button is one thing, but making it send an email after is something different. Those are two different levels of work. So like kind of like learning how to very politely be like, oh, that's a great idea. That will take me probably about 3 days to implement, or like that will be just another like, X amount of dollars that I can add to your invoice. If you would like me to invoice separately or together, let me know. Like you have your kind of polite ways of kind of setting that up. But at some point, like it can be very, very difficult. And I guess just speaking to software developers in general right now, like we are fortunate that it's kind of like our moment where there's a lot of opportunities for us. Like in South Florida, the last numbers that were run was that there were 4 job openings for every software developer. And to be honest, I have absolutely left jobs because I have tried to communicate my boundaries on work projects. several times with a boss that just like would say okay in the moment, and then that was not what would happen. So at some point you can practice all of these things, but if all else fails, it may be time to hit the job boards again, and that's okay.
That with you guys. Oh, and it just sounds. Sounds like. I mean, in your experience, has there been that does it exceed 40 hours a week when you're trying to get that set up?
No, so like that was kind of like one of the parameters, is that like we're switching to a 32-hour work week or a 4-day work week. But we know that sometimes work longer than that. Like sometimes things do come up. So like as long as like the ceiling is 40 hours, then that's okay. Like right now, like I'm putting together the React Developers Conference in Miami, and I try really hard to enforce my 32-hour work week, but caterers and vendors, they don't, they don't recognize that, so there will be times when I am answering emails, but like you just keep track of that yourself and you take the time. But for the most part, I think if you're just like, if you find yourself being pushed over, then you have to communicate that immediately. And kind of at G2I, we have this saying that like everybody is a CEO of like their own work. So like, just the same way that a founder or a CEO can't let their company fail, like you can't let your, like, take care of your projects like it's your own company. So like if you need help, you need to communicate that immediately. So like if you find that you're going over, or you find that they're operating outside of the parameters, then like ask for help, like see what people can do for you.
I think a little bit into both questions. I mean, I run my company, and I'm very bad setting boundaries and being confrontational overall, right? So I don't ask anyone not to reach me when they need me. So if they need me and I have my phone in my hands, I'll answer, even if it's 1 a.m. in the morning, right? Or if it's 8 p.m. or even if I'm having dinner with my wife and I just pick up the phone because something that I think that I can answer, I just answer. And if I'm not available and I don't want to, I will not, right? I wouldn't also promise to answer at any time. I think that our culture as a company has always been remote, and I always respected the fact that someone tells me like I'm not going to be available after 5 p.m. So that doesn't mean I'm not going to text you. I'm still going to text you. I'm still going to email you or Slack you. Just I will be okay if you don't answer me, right? I'll understand. What I do emphasize a lot is we have 2 ways of broadcasting messages to the rest of the group, right? One is a daily meeting, right? And you have to be there. If you're not there, you're just not good working with me. You have to be there on time every day. And the rest of the day, you can do whatever you want, right? And the other thing is that we also implement kind of like a stand-up bot that is basically you broadcasting part of the daily stand-up. So we don't make it that long, right? So people have the chance to know what you're doing before you jump into a meeting, just for the sake of saving time, right? So at least in my case, on our culture, because I know that everybody has like a different preference. I still do work for some other companies, and I still sometimes get the process of adapting to a different culture is not the one that I have established on Kobo Lab. You have to answer the bot and be on the meeting. If you're not, just that to me.
One thing that I don't want to miss saying really quickly is that the G2I has been around for 5-6 years now. And one thing that I always love sharing is that the founder and CEO, Gabe Greenberg, does not have work Slack or work email on his phone for his own company. And the company is successful and we're doing great. And he doesn't have Twitter on his phone either. And he has his phone in grayscale. So yeah, there's something to think about.
That is super interesting. Wow. Makes sense, you know. Sense when you're off, you're off. When you're it's good. I think we got two really good kind of different perspectives between Michelle and Angel, and both, you know, extremely high output, high achieving, both these people doing amazing things. And, you know, maybe the overarching thing is you need to experiment a little bit with what works for you, but keep experimenting and finding that thing that does work for you, and don't just take this sucks, I'm stressed, I, you know, don't feel good as status quo. It's not how it's supposed to be. And even if there are moments that suck, that's part of, you know, building something great, or, you know, kind of some things that are just in your way. But overall, you know, finding that system that works for you is really the most important thing. And there's a ton of resources. I don't know, maybe we should wrap up with that. Is there any resources that you like, that you really enjoy, whether it's an app, a content, newsletter, anything like that? Trying to think of one to give you time to think, if you have one. I don't know.
Oh man, that's a great question. Well, one day it will be the things that I'm writing right now. So we're working on what's called a restful work operating system, which is like an 8-section guide to implementing these kind of like what we're calling restful work best practices, so that you don't burn out. Because you know, we have this kind of saying that like you know, you should treat your best workers like sports teams treat their best athletes. You wouldn't be playing like Tom Brady on the field 5 days a week, 8 hours a day, like giving him no time off to rest, or like, you know, easy days, recoveries, things like that. Like fitness, like sleep is part of fitness. It is part of health. Rest and recovery helps you perform your best. So that is the kind of mindset behind the restful work operating system. But a lot has inspired that. And so I'll reference like kind of some of those things, like Atomic Habits. It's a very famous book. Probably everyone's heard of it, but I highly recommend it. Yeah, I think that would be my resource.
I think a couple of things. First of all, just to add to that, yeah, definitely balance. You need to get rest. You need to exercise in order to perform well. And for everything else, right? For peace of mind, for health, and some more stuff. There is a concept that I read a couple of times. It's called slow agile, right? It's kind of like a philosophy of you can be agile, but you don't have to be crazy about it and, you know, stress about it. And I'm completely the opposite, by the way. But I do recognize that it is valuable to, you know, push away the stress, because that's what, you know, really, right? And I guess even for me, it's taking something from this event, right? Thinking a little bit about the 4-day. I'll try, definitely. I'll try to push that. Find more balance, and again, we will try that. And I just, when I have free time, I just find another project to work. But it's also true, right, from my own experience, that I drop a lot of projects because I'm stressed about the project, about I don't like it anymore. I guess in a sense, developers these days are also a little bit lucky, right? I have the capacity, or the opportunity, I will say better, that I can just drop any job that I have right now, and then I find something else to work that I enjoy, right? And I know that that happens to me every 6 to 8 months on contractor work that I do. Every 6 to 8 months, I just stop doing what I'm doing. I get to a point where everything is settled or there is some sort of stability, and I just walk away. Maybe that also had to do a little bit with my motivations. So it's also important for you to, keep your goals, keep your balance, rest, exercise, keep your goals up, find something that you like, and, just that.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, everybody, for coming out. Thank you, 4Geeks. Like Alyssa mentioned, we have this partnership where anyone who enrolls in 4Geeks is going to get a membership to the Shrimp Society. This is what the Shrimp Society is all about, having these awesome, vulnerable conversations. We do, kind of public things like this. We have private events as well for our members. But be sure to check out the React conference. And if you're looking for software to be developed, talk with Angel and CoBuild, and we're going to hang out as well a little bit afterwards to chat. But thank you so much, everybody, for coming out and spending the time with us. There's food and drinks in the back, and thanks again. Cool.